Hey everyone, welcome to our first episode of Season 3 of STEM Time with Navya and Aishwarya. We are your hosts, Navya.
And Aishwarya.
In this new season, we will have several guest speakers within the field of computer science, such as professors, students, and many other people, in order to discuss their background as well as their experience in the field. So let's start our discussion. Aishwarya will start with a brief introduction of our guest speaker.
So we have our first guest speaker today, and she is an amazing computer science professor from the University of Texas at Dallas. So please welcome her. And our first question for her today is to tell us about yourself. Introduce, what you do and what you're interested in.
Thank you very much, Navya and Aishwarya, for inviting me to do this podcast. I'm really honored. So, I'm Bhavani Thuraisingham, Founders Chair Professor at the University of Texas, Dallas, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Cybersecurity Research and Education Institute. I am a Tamil of Sri Lankan origin, and I did my undergraduate degree, my BSc, at the University of Ceylon. Sri Lanka used to be called Ceylon. And then I got married when I was 20 as I was finishing my undergraduate degree. My husband was finishing his PhD at the University of Cambridge. And so I moved to England at the University of Bristol. I did my graduate education. And then as soon as I finished, we moved to the US in 1980 for better opportunities. And so I have had a long career, so 40-year career since 1980. For the first 3 years, I was a visiting faculty because my son was a baby at the time in New Mexico and Minneapolis. And then I joined the commercial industry for a couple of years, Control Data Corporation as a software developer. And then the last 35 years, since 1985, I've been focusing in cybersecurity and data science. At that time, it was called computer security and data management. So I started that career at Honeywell in Minneapolis. And then from there, I went to the MITRE Corporation, a federal research lab in Boston, Massachusetts, and then to the National Science Foundation for 3 years on assignment. It's part of the federal government. And I've been at UT Dallas since October 2004, so almost 16 years. So that is a very short overview about myself.
Wow, that's very amazing.
Yeah, it is. So it has been such a long journey for you in the field of computer science. So let's start from the very beginning. So, what was the moment, or how did you first become interested in computer science, and what exactly inspired you to pursue this field?
Okay, so, my PhD was actually in theoretical computer science because in the UK, right, the education system is much more focused in the sense you don't have really a broad range of topics. So I was always interested in computing, really doing programming. So my PhD was in theory of computation, theoretical computer science. Actually, Alan Turing, I know you all have interviewed some folks to talk about Alan Turing. He was my inspiration. I did a lot of work on Turing machines and unsolvability and complexity and so on. But then when I was in Minneapolis as a visiting faculty, I always wanted to, do programming and see results, right? When you are in theory, you can prove theorems, but you can't see your ideas put to practice. I was always interested in that. And that's when I decided to go into really computer science, hardcore programming. So while I was at University of Minnesota working as a visiting faculty, I also took a lot of courses in practical aspects of computer science. And so that's when I decided to go to industry. I love programming and I love putting my ideas to practice, theory to practice. And I first started working in computer networks for a couple of years in control data. But then this Honeywell opportunity was really that was the lucky break I had, and I can talk about it later on. And so I worked in databases and cybersecurity. So I worked in both areas ever since then for the last 35 years. So while I like the theoretical concepts, which is really great because it really, opens my mind, some deep thinking, but I also love development. so that all my ideas and my designs, I can see the results. So that is what really attracted me to computer science.
Wow, that was very inspiring. Um, Honestly, I'm actually very interested in data science as well. So that's actually something it was very interesting to learn about, and I'm very glad I got to speak to you about it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
I
moving on
also
to oh,
I also
sorry.
sorry, I also really agree with that because one of the main reasons I love programming is that entire idea of taking something with your creativity and imagination and making it into something that can become like a product or a website or whatever I'm creating or a function, even as something as simple as a function. I love that part of computer science. It's awesome.
Right. That's so rewarding, right? It's very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, talking about rewarding, do you have any memorable memories or moments that you loved when you were going through your journey in computer science?
Right. It's sort of interesting, that question. It's a hard question, actually. Let's see. So, my undergraduate was in mathematics and physics, right? Because at that time, we are talking about in the early to mid 1970s, right? So, uh, even in math and physics, we were all, women were in a minority. I think we probably, out of 200 students who entered, there would have been probably no more than 20. So, always at the
Wow.
10% range, right? So it was just a little bit, kind of sort of uneasy, right? Working, with boys, and you are one of very few. So, so it's not
Yeah.
anything. It was not really hard or anything, but it was somewhat awkward. So
Yeah.
another thing is, I took computer classes. Daunting initially, because remember those days we had the punch cards, and there were these huge, massive machines. And so I found it a little bit daunting, right? I was sort of hesitating in the beginning with these huge machines. It put me off a little bit in the beginning. And so pursuing theoretical computer science was really great for me at the time. But then when I saw the PC, right, started working, I just fell in love with it. And that's when I got interested in, the practical aspects. So, in terms of memories, I can always remember it then as well as now. Even now, we have only like 7 tenure track faculty, I believe, in our department out of about 50 faculty. So, it's always sort of 10%, maybe just over 10%. So, we are always in a minority. And I mean, that's always been a bit awkward, I would say, but that has also motivated me to work harder, do better, and also get other women into the field. And one thing, as I mentioned, Turing was an inspiration, Alan Turing, and his paper, Can Machines Think? So I'd read his 1936 work as part of my work in theoretical computer science. But what really also got me motivated to get into the practical aspects is Turing's paper, his famous 1951 paper, Can Machines Think? So I still read and reread that paper because that really inspires me. So I don't know whether I answered your question, but these are sort of my memories. How it evolved, you see, from the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, and now 2010s, and now we are going into the 2020s. So much has happened. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so true. Like even now, even though women are being encouraged to pursue computer science, pursue anything in the STEM field, it's still very difficult because women are still a minority in these fields, and
Yes,
they aren't
yes.
represented well enough.
Right. I can.
So awesome. That was Alan Turing is a great inspiration for almost everyone in computer science. The entire work that he's done, the writing that he has done over the field is incredibly inspiring. So now moving on to our next question, what is the most important aspect or event? Not even most important, but one that's like closest to your heart that brought you your success?
Right. So I would say, right, in terms of what I did, of course, I was always good in math. And that I think I attribute to my mother, who wanted to do a mathematical degree herself, but she got married when she was very young, and so she couldn't pursue. Fortunately, my husband really encouraged me to continue with my education. So I always had strong mathematics skills, as well as good logical thinking. So those were the attributes I had. But then I worked on several others too, like communication, right? You've got to communicate your ideas. And so when I was younger, I was more shy, but then I really learned to speak out. And also, of course, work hard goes without saying. And also, at that time, we didn't have as many sort of women mentors. But whenever I could, there was this famous mathematician at University of Minnesota, Dr. Marian Porel. So I did some work with her, and so I used to go and talk to her and get guidance. So mentorship also is important, although we didn't really have a lot of women at the time. But so in summary, I would say, of course, hard work, mathematical skills, logical thinking, and also effective communication. And with that goes good writing skills as well. So these are some of the things that attributes I think that really helped me. And of course, be motivated. I'm always looking for that next opportunity.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you were talking so much about, the important things in your life that led to your success. But when did you know that you actually had succeeded?
That's a very, very interesting question. It never ends. I don't think of myself as having succeeded, right? Because
Mhm.
I still want to do more, and that's the thing that keeps me motivated. Because if I think, oh, I've succeeded, then I can sort of go to sleep and not do anything else. So there's always more to do. But I just want to say my lucky break, because remember, when I was in New Mexico, my husband was at the Petroleum Center. So 1980, we moved to New Mexico soon after my PhD. I was offered a tenure track position at New Mexico Tech in Socorro. I turned it down. As I said, my son was a baby. So
Mhm.
then, once you turn such a position down, it's much harder. So I took visiting faculty for 3 years, and then I joined Control Data Corporation. I like software development. I love programming, but also, and I was part of the CDC Net, one of the early networking products for Control Data. It used to be a massive corporation. But then I missed also the research. So I thought it'll be really great to have research and development and technology transfer. But then it's not so easy to get that job. But I was very lucky. 1985, I had the luckiest break. So I became a US citizen 5 years later after coming to the US. And Honeywell had just written a proposal to the Air Force to get a contract to develop one of the early secure database systems. And then Honeywell interviewed me, and they had to like me enough to hire me. So all three things happened in fall 1985. And you can compute the probability of all these three events happening at the same time. That was my lucky break. I got into cybersecurity and data science, or computer security and data management, and continued to work in the field for 35 years. So I think, right, so that is what I think I would sort of attribute to my success, because I know hard work, everything is important, but once in a way you need that break, right? Somebody has to support you. So that is very important.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. While you were talking a lot about, your journey throughout computer science, what is something you wish you knew about yourself or about computer science itself before starting out?
Okay, so that's a good question too. You're asking such great questions. One thing I wasn't prepared, how quickly computer science changes, right? Every day things are changing because of all the developments. 15 years ago, did we know that social networks would be a boom the way it is now? Or 25 years ago, did we know that we'll have companies like Google at the time, and then 15 years ago, Facebook could become such a giant? And then while these developments are being made, it's impacting us computer scientists. So we've got to do research. So I've done work on social media analytics, done work on web search, written papers in these areas, securing social media, web security. So you've got to be very active and very nimble and adapt to the environment, because you can soon become outdated, right? So
Definitely.
especially as you get older, you've got to keep up with all the developments, read the magazines, so all the latest developments, because what I knew 10 years ago, if I go away and come back now, I wouldn't know where to begin, right? So every day is important, because they are discovering new stuff. And even we are writing our papers, other people are writing papers, some are great papers, some are not so good papers, but you've got to read as much as you can, but not everything. You've got to be focused as well. So I would say I did not expect how quickly the field would change and how you can be out of date very quickly. So that is something I would tell a person who is sort of starting out in computer science. This is what you've got to look out for. If you want to just sort of lay back and not bother to keep up with all the developments almost daily or weekly, then it's not really the best field for you. But if you can do that, then it can be sort of a wonderful opportunity.
Hmm.
Yes, that is amazing advice, and I completely agree with that. Like, I was reading recently about this, and so there was like the third industrial revolution, which was the computers, and the break with that, and now we are in the fourth industrial revolution with artificial intelligence and all this like machine learning and all the interesting stuff. So everything that was learned about computer science is just completely changing daily, and so, in order to keep up with the field, you always need to read up on the news and look at things like that. So, that is amazing advice. Thank you for that. Um, so, we'll move on to our next question, which is what skills are really important to have in computer science and tackling problems and being in the field and having all this new information coming at you every single day? What are the skills that are important to be in this field?
So I would say, in addition to all I said, right, mathematical skills, logical thinking, and hardworking communication, all that is important. But in computer science specifically, there's so much of information overload coming from everywhere, every day, right? You can read the newspaper, you can read Economist magazine, which is not a computer science magazine. Then there are computer science magazines like ACM and IEEE Computer Society. And so, what you have to do is to be able to read all this and digest and select the important information for you, because you can't really be good in everything. Then you become sort of like jack of all trades, right? You've got to be a master of some. And so, that is a very important trait to develop. It's not that, I mean, you don't have to be born with it. You've got to be able to get all this information, read, digest, and focus on the important ones. So that, I would say, in addition to all the other skills I mentioned, I think that is really important for someone, to succeed in computer science, right? And in addition to that, so that's a sort of a technical aspect. And also, you also need to you need to have a mentor. So these days, there are quite a few actually, men, of course, men, and there are quite a few women too in computing. So the younger women, I will advise them to find mentorships and get advice. All that is very important, right? So in one sentence, I would say, one word, if you ask me what is the most important trait that one person should have, and that is focus. You have to focus, because just to add this, so in my case, I did a little bit of detour, means I didn't accept my tenure track position then. I had to wait 24 years before I got my tenured position. So you've got to be focused, because today, although those days, there weren't as many jobs, even the competition was not as stiff as it is today. Although there are many jobs now, there are also many people from all over the world. So you've got to be focused on your career from day one. And that's sort of the advice I would give others.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. And I actually agree with that. And even if not just necessarily computer science, anything we do, as long as we put focus and hard work into it, it's something that will always turn out amazing.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Our next question is, what do you enjoy most about computer science?
As I've sort of answered, I would, what I really enjoy, okay, it depends, right? As a professor, because I've got multiple roles: professor, researcher, developer. So, as a professor, what I really like to see my students, and that's for any professor, not just computer science, my students really thrive and learn. That's the biggest joy I get. And also, the junior faculty I mentor thrive in their career. So that's sort of general. But what I really like myself in computer science, both aspects. You can work in theory and prove theorems, and you can design systems and develop it yourself. Or most of the time these days, I do only a little development, but I work with my students and they do the development. They come and show me the results and demonstrate their systems. And that gives me so much joy because, the ability to uh, sort of see what you have really done, right? If you want to make say a car, like a mechanical engineer, he or she would do the design, and it will take probably years to see the car, right? But here we can see things almost, I wouldn't say instantaneously because it's not easy. Programming is very, very hard. So you can see the results, and that is what I'm so excited about in computer science. And that's why I'm so motivated myself, right, to continue with this. And you asked the question, when did I know I was successful? I don't think of myself as a success. I really want to do so much more. So that's what that's what I'm all about, seeing my ideas put into practice.
That's wonderful. Yes. And like I said, I really enjoy that portion of computer science, of the rewarding part, and then also the part of learning what's going on. Like when you use algorithms or you write lines of codes, you really have to understand the fundamentals and basics foundation of that. So you really are creating it from scratch, basically. So it's really rewarding. So now moving on to our next question, how did you set yourself apart from others who pursued this field of computer science? Because there are many people who pursue computer science, but how did you set yourself apart from them?
I think that's a good question. So it depends the various phases. I always want to do that extra. So when I was in working in companies, right, Honeywell, Control Data. When I was at Control Data, I took a job as adjunct faculty professor at University of Minnesota. So that gave me some extra. And when I was at Honeywell, I still continued as adjunct professor at University of Minnesota. But what I also did, see, publishing papers, while important, was not mandated in industry. But I always continued kept up with my publications, kept on publishing journal papers, did some research, went nights to University of Minnesota. So after work, I would go and work with professors and students and write papers. So I always kept up with the publications. So that was the extra I did. And even when I was at MITRE Corporation, I signed up to go and give talks at various organizations and conferences, kept writing papers, started writing books when I was at MITRE, when all that was not mandated. But it's over and above. Of course, you've got to do your basic job, finish all your projects, right? That's what you're really paid for. So I always went over and above. And in the end, I was invited to give keynote addresses and so on. At the university, writing papers, supervising students, teaching, and doing research is our main job. So, what is the extra I did? I did a lot of work for women in cybersecurity, organizing conferences, women in data science, giving talks at women in data science events. So I really mentored women. So out of all my PhD students, I have, by the time I would have graduated, I've graduated, I believe, 18. I've got 5 in the pipeline. And then currently I've got 5 students, and 4 are women and 1 is a man. So by the time I would have done, yeah, I would have had 12 female students, and then that would only give me 8 men. Not that I like supervising men as well. But women like to, they get motivated, right? So they want to come and work with me and do their PhD. So I do that extra supporting women. And I also really want to focus more now on diversity and inclusion, not just women, but also, disadvantaged or women, men from underrepresented groups. As I said, I want to also do more for those communities. So this is the extra. So always go that extra mile. Do your basic job, but you've got to do the extra. So that's what
Yeah.
I want to tell to advise the junior, researchers and developers and those in computer science.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, I totally agree with you, especially when you have a passion for these things. Like I can tell, you have a passion for helping others and making sure they're on the right track, doing their things, especially as a professor, teaching your students. And I think that's really amazing. And I'd like to see where, other people, if they can get the same opportunities that you're able to give your students. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, diversity is always something to strive in any field that you're going for. So whenever you have a passion for a subject, for us, computer science, we always want to help others get into this field and give them an opportunity to search in the field and for them to discover the beautiful intricacies of the field, so that they can see whether they're interested or not, and hopefully have the opportunity to pursue the field. So I think that's really, really important.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, on that same topic, actually, what do you think about the gender gap in STEM and computer science?
Right. This is very disappointing, especially in computer science. It's really getting worse because when I got into computer science, there were really more people in computer
Yeah,
science.
actually, I've read an article, and it actually stated that the number of women in computer science is actually decreasing,
It
and
is.
that's why they're trying to, improve that.
Right. And so the thing is this, it also depends on the area. If you look at data science, there are probably around about 30%. I might be exaggerating a little bit, maybe 25 to 30% in data science. But in cybersecurity, it is really bad. It's around 10%, right?
Wow.
So that's the thing. But even I was talking, we just finished our flagship conference, ACM, Data and Application Security and Privacy. So a virtual conference. I was talking to some folks, and they felt that in data and application security and privacy, there are more women. It doesn't mean 30%, but maybe there might be about 20% women. But so it varies. When you go to the systems level, right, the nitty gritty of the systems and hardware, there are fewer women. And it's just that, women, that's why they have to get motivated at a younger age. And some people who are sort of in social sciences, they say, oh, we don't need, you don't have to have all these programming skills. Soft skills are fine. Look at all some of the top people, they haven't gotten computer science background, but how many people become CEOs of companies, right? Even men, there are 500 Fortune 500 companies, right? So few, and only 500 people can be CEOs. And out of that, 10% women, say 50. Most of us have to do sort of lots and lots of work, right, to earn our living. And what is really, and not all of us become CEOs, and some of us may not want to become CEOs or become presidents of universities. We've got to, work. Work means, do the development, do things that are interesting to us, and also give us a good living. And I would say that computer science is a high paying job. And I feel that a high paying job is a must for every woman. Because if you can support yourself, right, that gives you so much dignity and confidence. And it's also good you can stay at home and, take care of a family and still do work. Although these days, most of us are working from home. And what is helping us? Without technology, most of us would have gone bankrupt, right, with this COVID-19 pandemic. So, and I'd also like to tell women that, you can still, you don't have to be a geek to be in computer science. You can still be fashionable and still do computer science. So that is, but the main thing is you can't tell a girl at 18, okay, get into computer science. And that's why we are doing a lot of work to motivate girls right from a younger age, right, by having coding camps and various other programs. And this way, the girls start at a younger age. And we find that these girls are really very, very good. They do have the ability. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, girl or a boy, they all have the ability. It's just that parents and teachers have to work together to get them motivated. And hopefully, we will see more and more of that happening, right? So, that is what is very important. And also, as I said, I always stress when I give talks, high
And so
paying
that's
jobs.
always important. So thank you so much for talking with us today, for with your experience in computer science, giving a lot of advice to students who are interested in pursuing the field. So my last question to you is, what is the advice that you would give to these people who are just starting or their computer science like education, or like aspire to study computer science in the future?
Right. So I would say that, try to learn, as much as possible, but then you need to focus. That is very important, right? Focus on a few subjects and really master it well. You need some breadth, without a doubt, but you've got to go deep in order to really learn and develop a passion for coding and development. It can be so much fun. Work in teams, work with other girls, work with other boys. And for those who are sort of in the early career, I would like to say that always grab the opportunities. That means when I say grab opportunities, not just, grab not in the bad sense. Don't take stuff away from other people, but always be open. Don't think about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. You always have to look at the present, what you can do right now, and whatever opportunities are in front of you, go after them. And then, things would fall into place. So this is some of the advice that I really, really want to give, because you really have to develop a passion and work in teams. I mean, get the support of others, network, and get your mentors. That is really important, whether you are men or women, especially for women. It's really important because there are fewer mentors for women because there aren't as many women. And one more thing I wanted to say. I didn't want to go into management. I had opportunities. I was in management when I was in Mita Corporation. They had a lot of hopes for me, but I didn't really like management and love to do the work. But you need some women to get into management very quickly, because only if there are enough women at the department head levels, right, then you can become a division director or a dean. Because if there are more men, then you don't have enough women in the pool to select the women dean or a woman division director. You need to have enough women division directors or women deans to select provost and president. So if you feel that you have an aptitude for management, get into it early. Don't feel shy. Don't feel sort of not confident, because you can do it. So we need more women at the high levels, right? At the highest levels, such as deans and division directors and provosts and vice presidents and president and head of a university or president of a company, CEOs. For that, you've got to start early and get to that first level of management. Then you can go to the second level. So that's another thing I wanted to mention to all the women out there, because don't say, oh, I'm not good. No, you are good. Think and have that confidence. So those are my last words. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you so much for such inspiring words. You are such a role model and inspiration to many people out there. Thank you so much for your time and all of your inspiring words. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really am honored, and I really enjoyed doing this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. It was amazing having you here. And I just wanted to say that um, we had an amazing time talking to you and we really enjoyed it. But that's a wrap for today. So, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of STEM Time with Navi and Aishwarya. This is just the beginning of season 3. So, be sure to stay tuned for our upcoming episodes this season. And yeah, we can't wait to share more experiences with you. So make sure to follow us, subscribe to our channel, and listen to all our upcoming podcasts by staying in tune. Thank you guys. Bye.